certified trainer and coach with really big experience in Agile, one of the first certified ESP professional. During the last 7 years was involved more than 20 successful Agile transformations and projects of different scale, mostly with the focus on business agility and program portfolio management. Anton, you have a very interesting topic for today, why all Agile frameworks are same.
Yeah, that's true. Hi to everyone. And exactly today I want to talk about the Agile frameworks, and there are a couple of reasons why this is very popular now and this is trendy. But if we look even further, then basically nowadays the world is talking about business agility. And if you miss the train, you're still talking about frameworks, but that's fine. You're still in the later majority, that's still okay. And business agility will come later. Now, actually, you see one of the frameworks, FOP, this is about business agility. And we will not talk about this. So we will talk mostly about another frameworks which are popular, like SAFe, LESS, Nexus, and other interesting words. And maybe partially Spotify as well. Yeah, thank you for introducing me. I might forget some English words maybe, so I will replace with Georgian ones or Russian ones. I have a lot of pictures and I look a bit scary here, so and that's true, some of my statements will be challenging today. So I wanted to start from the frameworks, but I will start from the transformation. So I've heard today a lot of people say like Agile transformation, and these two things are very connected, right? So when you think about transformation, you probably, the very next thing you're thinking about is what kind of framework I have to choose, what will be the target state, and so on and so far. And to do the step back, there is an interesting phrase, I really like it. It was Jack Welch who said it, and he was the CEO of the General Electric at that time. And he said, when the rate of change outside of the organization exceeds the rate of change inside the organization, the company is really close to the side, to the end. So many C-level representatives nowadays feel that this is not okay. Yeah, so the world is changing so quickly. We also need to be agile towards this, and they decide to kick off the Agile transformation project. And I really like next phrase. I tried to find who said that, but I didn't. So I put it to me. And the Agile transformation is not a project. Basically, this is the journey. If you start doing this, you never end. You cannot draw the final picture that you come in 2-3 years. And from that point, you continue just living in Agile world. So it doesn't work. Changing along the way, like basically every day we see the COVID. Yeah, so we have different regulations and changes on the country's level. Like basically every day something changes. And when we start doing changes and doing the Agile transformation, this is basically the new normal. We have to understand that this is new business model, and we have to be used to live in this new normal in a high rate of change. And here exactly, you probably have the cheat sheet, which is the Agile frameworks, because you can understand that, okay, this is the stabilization structure, right? So we take the picture, we take the framework, we implement it, profit. From another side, this exactly gives you the idea of the target state, how our organization will look like. Okay, let's see this framework, let's see that framework, what better fit us. And that's basically a trap, and that's what I will reveal. So when you do the transformation using the framework, usually you have these 3 pillars. You have the expectations for the management. Otherwise, you cannot do the Agile transformation, don't have buy-in. Of course, you have problems to solve, right? Otherwise, you don't do the transformation, because if everything is perfect, why do you change? And of course, there is a framework which kind of status what can be changed. And usually, this history doesn't fly, because basically something went wrong and the framework was chosen as you think incorrectly. There is another picture I do like from disciplined Agile, which is closer to reality, which says, okay, you have another three pillars. You have people, you have tools and process. So concentrate on both, on three of them, and you are good. So your transformation will be good, and your framework will be good. And by the way, the right framework is disciplined agile. And if you don't manage all three, so if you manage just tools and people, for example, so that's, they call something like agile kids playing with shiny new toys, because you don't have process established and so on. So that's interesting picture. And you have to always keep in mind that you have at least these three pillars. But number three is kind of magic in agile world. So you may heard of three waves of agile, and basically the first wave started long ago. It was 2001 or even earlier, and it was called as agile for teams. Yeah, and this is the level when everybody were doing the kind of hype around Scrum and maybe a bit of Kanban. So everybody tried to jump in and say like, okay, we are agile now, so we have Scrum and Kanban, right? So we are good. Then time passed, and basically what happened, people had, or company had, for example, 3 teams, and business was successful, and now they have 23. What to do? Yeah, you have 23 teams. The traditional methods or traditional Scrum methods or whatever doesn't work anymore. You need to scale, and that's exactly the second wave. You see on the picture, this is the second wave of scaling. Agile at scale, because if I remember my first training in 2000 something on agile or on Scrum, whatever, and I asked the question, if I have many teams, what do I do? And the answer was, this is not the topic of this training. And that was true, because at that time it was not the topic. But later, you see, it's starting from 2007, it became the topic. So it became the trend to talk about scaling. And here we go with all these frameworks. It's SAFe, scaled agile framework. It's LESS, large Scrum. We have Nexus, just because we have to have it. We have, for example, DAD, Rage, if you want Spotify, and many other guys. Some of them are dead already, but still we have many frameworks. And then around 2010 and later, and now the trend is still going, this is the business agility. The wave of business agility. And if you are to ask me what we're gonna see on the agile market, like in 10 years, in 5 years, and so on. So we will probably handle the pretty much similar conference, but we will be talking about another frameworks, about business agility frameworks. Because nowadays we have like 2 or 3 of them, and that's it. And there is no strong leader at the moment. But in a couple of years, we definitely will see. There will be like 10 or more business agility frameworks. They will be leaders, and we will be talking about this the same way. So because how to build Scrum or Kanban, it's not interesting anymore, right? We know how to start agile teams. So it's more interesting how to do it at scale. The same will happen in a couple of years. It will be understandable how to build agile at scale, but how to build business agility, how to include HR operations, blah, 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 logistics, and so on. So this is the key picture. And another interesting thing that any agile organization, if you look at the basically any scale, it can be represented with 3 layers. And again, it's really correlating with the 3 waves of agile. On the very low level, on beneath, we have the team. This is the team level with our Scrum and Kanban. Remember, we are talking about, like, for example, 3 teams, and that's fine. We can build that. On a portfolio level, that's interesting, because if you don't have it, you don't have the company, right? So you have to have budgeting, you have to have some understanding of value streams. You obviously, like, if you go and ask your finance department, they will tell you that they have some OPEX, they have some CAPEX, and that's somehow aligned with the whole history. So that's present. What usually not in place is this program or product level, because usually it's working either that way, when people from the team level involved too much, and they somehow, this is usually technological companies, or you have vice versa. Your portfolio level is very going down to basically control what's going on inside the teams, because the program level is not built. So you have to you have to control, you have to understand like, okay, these guys work in Scrum. What is the velocity of this team? I need to understand to build my portfolio. That's disaster. So we need to build the program layer. This is the most challenging layer basically in an organization. And that's exactly where all these frameworks can help you, right? So if we look at, none of frameworks cover this layer. SAFe tries, but it's kind of questionable. Everybody and all the scaling frameworks, they are taking the team level and saying like, okay, you have it. Okay, if you don't have team level, if you don't have agile teams, come on, stop it. You need to build culture. You need to build teams. What are you gonna scale? Your house or what? So build agile teams. Okay, now when you have teams, you are prepared to talk with us. And now you can implement SAFe, you can implement LESS, you can implement this Nexus and other frameworks. And basically the problem that each framework helps us to solve, this is to align this number of teams. Yeah, how do we work with 23 teams on the same product? And what if we have a lot of value streams? It's not just one value stream with one product. If we have 23 value streams, and that can be typical to the big bank, right? And each value stream has a lot of teams under it, and how to align all of them. And that's the challenge, and that's how to do it. And that's exactly where the frameworks might help. And you probably, I will not stop for a long time on the exactly scaling frameworks. You probably saw them, they are publicly available. There is SAFe with 4 modifications, right? So essential, if you're just 50 people yet, there is portfolio SAFe, which basically you can see pretty much the same structure. So there are 3 layers. There is a team level, there is a program level, there is a portfolio level, and yes, there is enterprise. So that might be a lot of these kind of tabs. And there is another configurations of SAFe. If you're even bigger, if you are NASA, for example, then you can look at some large solution or full SAFe. But again, the logic is pretty much the same. Just to map it to our like 3 layers organization. You have teams. They have to work somehow, right? We don't talk about building agile teams anymore, it's clear. Now we have to align them somehow. In SAFe, you have agile release train. In Spotify, you have tribe. In Scrum at Scale, you have executive action team, and so on and so far. So basically, the logic behind that is pretty much the same. And all the frameworks name the same instances with just different naming. So they need to align somehow people either with agile release train or solution train or EAT or tribe or whatever. You can invent your own. When you understand how it works under the hood, you can invent your own framework. You can call it mafia and introduce some kind of cartel, family, clan, and other groups of people. It's just about that. Then, of course, there is something inside. So there is a culture and a lot of mechanics. But again, it's pretty much the same. If we look at LESS, so it will be pretty much the same. Yeah, we have this system thinking, feature teams. And again, we still have agile teams. They still have to align on the program level and coordinate this. And you see explicitly there is coordination. There are some Scrum Masters, or there are some travelers who travel between the teams and coordinate them. And that's the big idea of scaling. You need to coordinate somehow. If we go further and, for example, LESS works for 3 teams, but if you have more, just redraw this picture, right? So just have more coordination and more teams, and it works, yeah, at some extent with some limitations, but pretty much basic LESS is pretty much the same, which is SAFe essential. LESS huge is pretty much, which is like SAFe, well, not portfolio, because in LESS you don't have portfolio. You don't have to think about it. But anyways, it's pretty similar. Then Nexus. Of course, Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber had to create it, something for scaling, and Ken created Nexus. And it's the same as LESS, but they have also a Nexus integration team, right? So somebody have to integrate it. In SAFe, we have a system team. Again, pretty much same concepts, different naming. pretty much same mechanics. Then Jeff created the Scrum at scale, where you have 2 meta cycles, and they work very easy if you have just teams. Yeah, so team number 1, team, 1 second. Yeah, this number 1, number 2, number 3, and they have some Scrum Master. So what they have to do, they just have to go and synchronize the Scrum of Scrums. What if you have more, like 25 teams or something? These are still teams, right? So on this level, they synchronize like this, and then they go to source and synchronize on that level. And again, this works. This is about coordination of people at scale, and pretty much similar mechanisms are used. But we have to remember that if we can have even more teams, and the synchronization works pretty much the same, and it forms an executive action team. And if we have product owners, the same story, right? So we synchronize the same way. And then we remember that we have business agility, custom relations, and we integrate all this into source, and here you go. And again, you're still solving the program level question, right? Program level problem, because you have teams, you have portfolio, you have to synchronize somehow these guys. If you look at Kanban, well, that becomes a bit more complicated because you have cadences, you have a lot of math, but again, on a very low level, you have this delivery part, which is basically similar to planning, synchronization, and delivery. And then on program level, you have to talk about how it works and what kind of risks we have, and then align it with strategy. Again, remember QBR, that can be pretty much the same. But it's a bit more tricky with Kanban because it involves a lot of math statistics, like this, for example, to identify classes of services and to improve the predictability. So this is one of the most predictable methods in like an agile market. And then, of course, you can use the Kanban maturity model to understand, like, this is your roadmap, how to improve these things. This is your roadmap, how you do this agile transformation. And if you look at the trends, so basically this picture compares 2015 and 2019. And we clearly see that something changed on the market, right? So the Scrum of Scrums was dominating. That's easy, remember, like just make a source, and that's it. And we have some internally created methods, and Scaled Agile Framework, for example, was on the 3rd place. Nowadays is on the 1st place in the world. Why? My answer to this, because it's very well described. So you can find anything on SAFe with description, starting from Scrum Master and Agile team, and ending up with lean budgeting and lean portfolio management. But again, we see that we have interesting players on the market. Of course, there are Scrum of Scrums and so on. We do have some guys who are doing Spotify model, and we clearly saw this today, at least some parts of it, right? So that became a bit of a framework, despite the Henrik Knieber, the author of this, says that, please guys, don't use it. It's developed just for one company. It works for us. Even more, this kind of tribes and so on, this is already outdated. We don't do this anymore. This is not working even for us, but we are wondering whether it's working for you. Okay, that's surprise, but have fun. And again, this is again just forming people around some products, some kind of programs. And again, it covers only program level. So this is the latest statistics. You see that Scaled Agile framework is still dominating, but it doesn't matter because they are pretty much the same. If you took Spotify, we were talking a lot today, right? So we have like this concept of squads, which is pretty much the same as team. We have mission for each squad. We group them into tribes. We do create some chapters. We create some guilds. We create some clusters in some organization. And that's all about aligned autonomy. What we try to achieve on the program level, basically, is this bunch of people. We want them to be aligned. We want the transparency to have. And we want to give them to decentralize, to give them enough autonomy to create the great products, to innovate, and so on. And that's the only idea why we are doing all this stuff, because all these frameworks solve just problems on the program level. We do know how to do the agile teams. We do know how, if you don't know how to build a portfolio, just go to business school and you learn it quickly. But on the program level in agile world, this is something that is most challenging. That's why all frameworks trying to tackle exactly this problem. And another, this is the picture from Kotor, and I like it because that's a good idea how you should treat the frameworks. Because imagine your organization is a hardware, right? It has the CPU, let's call the CEO will be CPU or whatever. It has the hard drive, it has the GPU and so on, and you want to install a new operating system. If you have to rebuild hardware completely, that sounds weird, right? So you should be able to install the operational system on your hardware. The same way the Agile framework should work. So you have your hierarchy, and that's okay. That's maybe your legacy, your history. And the Agile framework should be very natural to apply on your structure. Of course, then you have to do the evolutionary change, right? Because you understand, right, we have to change this, we have to change that because it will be better. And that's a lot about culture, as we said today. But think about this as an operational system. If you cannot install it, then there are two cases why it might happen. First one, something is wrong with the operational system that you were sold, or your hardware is completely broken, right? So fix for hardware, fix some kind of cultural things. And that's probably it. Just remember that Agile doesn't have brain and you have to use your own.